And thank you for joining us. It's been a diplomatic roller coaster in Korean affairs over the last few days, but it looks like the North Korea-US summit is back on track. Working-level talks between the two sides took place at the inter-Korean border village of Panmunjom today, and another round of talks is set to take place in Singapore as well. President Moon Jae-in's surprise meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also seems to have settled some nerves after President Donald Trump's abrupt announcement last week that he was cancelling the June 12th summit, only for him to suggest it was back on again. However, if the last few days have proved anything, it's that anything could happen. We discuss these developments with a guest in the studio later, but first we turn to our news centre, where Devin Whiting has the latest news updates. Devin?
Hi, Jang-ho. Yes, South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un held their second surprise summit over the weekend. President Moon has ordered his aides to come up with necessary measures, keeping in mind that there could be more such meetings in the future. Our Blue House correspondent Moon Gan-young has our top story.
Once unimaginable. In fact, up until this past weekend, that is, this kind of a casual meeting is what the rest of us may witness more often in the future between leaders of two sides separated by the most heavily fortified border in the world, or is at least what South Korean President Moon Jae-in hopes for. Speaking to his top aides 2 days after his unannounced face-to-face with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on the northern side of the demilitarized zone, the border that separates the two Koreas, President Moon ordered necessary arrangements to be made for future meetings of such, as he plans to make these somewhat like a normal routine between friends.
이번 남북 정상회담에서 무엇보다 의미가 컸던 것은 남북의 정상이 긴급한 현안을 논의하기 위해 번잡한 절차와 형식을 생략하고 일상적인 만남처럼 쉽게 연락하고 쉽게 약속하고 쉽게 만났다는 사실입니다.
The South Korean president asked his aides to come up with measures, keeping in mind that similar instances could happen in the future to ensure that there's no gap in the line of military command, keeping National Security Council members on standby, making sure there are balanced on-spot media coverage, as well as notifying related countries before and after such meetings. President Moon also stressed, however, that holding regular summits, such as one scheduled in Pyongyang this fall, is also vital in improving inter-Korean relations, in addition to these impromptu routine meetups midway on the Korean peninsula. Moon Gan-young, Arirang News, The Blue House.
Meanwhile, North Korea and the U.S. appear to be back at work making preparations for their summit, with a number of working-level talks being held between the two sides. Our Lee Ji-won tells us more about what they could be discussing.
It's the second day of secretive meetings between the U.S. and North Korea on the northern side of Panmunjom. The delegations are reportedly led by the former U.S. ambassador to South Korea and former nuclear negotiator Sung Kim, and from North Korea, Choi Sun-hee, the regime's vice foreign minister and a former director of her ministry's North American department. Both are experts in their fields, so it's expected that they'll discuss the agenda and details of the Pyongyang-Washington summit, including North Korea's denuclearization and a security guarantee for the regime. In fact, South Korea's Yonhap News cited a foreign affairs source reporting that the talks will center on how both sides see and define denuclearization. Japan's Kyodo News Agency reported Monday, citing U.S. officials, that Washington is asking Pyongyang to first transfer the 20 nuclear warheads it is believed to have to somewhere outside of its borders as soon as possible. This is in line with what White House National Security Advisor John Bolton said a few weeks ago when he suggested that North Korea's nuclear weapons be dismantled and shipped to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, as was done in its preferred Libya model. But some also say that the talks could depart from the Libya model, Trump having said he would not take that approach and instead focus on his Trump model. This could mean the North counter-proposes that it first give up its intercontinental ballistic missiles, the weapons that would theoretically enable it to strike the U.S. Trump last week had also, for the first time, hinted at the possibility of accepting a phased-in disarmament for North Korea. Meanwhile, as confirmed by White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, an advanced team of White House and State Department officials, reportedly led by Deputy Chief of Staff Joe Hagan, is believed to have left for Singapore on Sunday to prepare for the Kim-Trump summit. And a high-ranking North Korean official, Kim Chang-sun, who heads the regime's State Affairs Commission Secretariat, appears to have gone to Singapore as Hagan's counterpart. The North's delegation was spotted in Beijing Airport Monday morning and is believed to have taken a Singapore flight in the afternoon, according to local sources. And since the two sides are meeting in the city-state that'll host a possible summit, it's expected that they'll discuss protocol and details of the schedule. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
President Trump is again sounding positive about North Korea, saying it has great potential economically, similar to comments he made last week before his summit with South Korea's President Moon. Some say that's a sign President Trump might be ready to offer Pyongyang economic rewards in return for its denuclearization. Kim Yo-sun has this report.
President Trump says he believes North Korea will one day be a great economic and financial nation, adding it has brilliant potential. This was what he wrote on his Twitter page on Sunday, as he confirmed Washington and Pyongyang are holding working-level talks in North Korea to coordinate the upcoming summit between the two countries. President Trump also said North Korean leader Kim Jong-un agrees with him about North Korea's potential for a brighter future, and it will happen. He made similar remarks while answering reporters' questions ahead of last week's summit at the White House with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. Trump elaborated that South Korea has achieved remarkable growth backed by the trillions of dollars of aid provided by Washington, and North Korea can do the same, highlighting that they are the same people. He also insisted the safety of Kim's regime will be guaranteed if Pyongyang abandons its nuclear weapons. Pundits say President Trump's remarks signal he's ready to offer massive economic rewards to Pyongyang in exchange for its complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
A meeting between the two Koreas called off by the North earlier this month has been rescheduled for this Friday. Previously, Seoul was going to send its unification minister and North Korea an official with a similar portfolio. It's possible that they'll talk about setting up railway links and other projects. Oh Jung-hee takes a look at the possible agenda of the talks and the delegates.
A month has passed since April's inter-Korean summit, and the first round of high-level talks between the two Koreas will finally take place on Friday. The objective, to discuss measures to implement the summit agreement called the Panmunjom Declaration. The talks were originally scheduled to take place a couple of weeks ago, and each of Seoul and Pyongyang's delegations were finalized before the talks were abruptly called off by North Korea. It remains to be seen whether major changes will be made to the list of delegates, but it's widely thought they'll be similar, if not the same. The delegations were to meet at the Peace House on the South Korean side of the border village of Panmunjom. Prior to the cancellation, North Korea said it was sending a 5-member delegation led by Lee Sun-kwon, the head of the North's Inter-Korean Affairs Committee, while South Korea also had a 5-member delegation led by Unification Minister Cho Myung-kyun. Ministers in charge of railways and sports were included from the North Korean side, while Seoul also had vice ministers of land and culture. So attention falls on whether these delegates will stay for possible discussions on connecting railways between the two Koreas in forming joint teams for upcoming international sports events. Forestation projects in North Korea could also be discussed, as South Korea originally included the Vice Minister of the Forest Service in its delegation. Meanwhile, Seoul and Pyongyang are expected to try and set dates for inter-Korea military and Red Cross talks, as well as establish dialogue channels for each. Holding joint events on major dates shared by the two Koreas is likely to be discussed as well. Coming right up is June 15th, the date on which South and North Korea issued their first joint statement in 2000. 오정희, Arirang News.
I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines for this hour.
One of the most surprising developments in recent days was President Moon's secret trip to meet with Kim Jong-un and hold only the fourth ever summit between the two Koreas. But how did it come about? An official from South Korea's presidential office says it was North Korea who reached out first. Hwang Ho-jun has this report.
김 위원장은 그제 오후 일체의 형식 없이 만나고 싶다는 뜻을 전해왔고 저는 흔쾌히 수락하였습니다.
And a high-ranking official at the Blue House described in a bit more detail how that meeting was set up. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, the official said Seoul's intelligence chief Seo Hoon and his North Korean counterpart Kim Yong-chol have been in close communication since the April 27th summit. Last Friday, Seo and Kim were discussing how to prepare for the North Korea-US summit and how to improve inter-Korean relations as part of the follow-up measures to the April 27 Panmunjom Declaration. During that process, the North Korean official relayed Kim Jong-un's desire for the leaders of the two Koreas to hold an informal and candid meeting. Seo passed on Kim's message to President Moon, who approved the proposal. So, from Friday night to Saturday morning, working-level talks took place to iron out the details of the impromptu summit between President Moon and Kim Jong-un. And on Saturday afternoon, the two leaders met again at the border village of Panmunjom, this time at Tongilgak, a building on the North Korean side. But of course, the surprise summit was also happening as Pyongyang and Washington wrangle over the conditions for their own summit. It was last Tuesday when President Moon and President Trump met in Washington, where the Blue House officials said the two leaders agreed to do their utmost so the North Korea-US summit scheduled for June 12th will be held without any disruption. But just 2 days later, President Trump suddenly called off the June summit in a letter to Kim Jong-un, citing hostile comments from North Korean officials as well as concern about the country's commitment to giving up its nuclear weapons. The Blue House lamented the cancellation and urged the leaders to resolve their problems through direct and close dialogue. North Korea responded to Trump's letter as well in a surprising way, calling it, quote, unexpected and extremely regrettable, and saying Pyongyang was willing to, quote, to sit face-to-face at any time. And just about 14 hours later, President Trump tweeted that he remains open to holding a summit on June 12th as the two sides are having, quote, very productive talks. So, with the summit in Singapore possibly back on, President Moon pledged to call or to meet with his North Korean counterpart whenever necessary. He praised Kim Jong-un for taking the initiative to talk, and comparing the latest meeting to one between friends, he said that's how it should be. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, to discuss these tumultuous events over the Korean Peninsula over the last few days, joining us in the studio is Dr. Woo Jung-yup from the Sejong Institute. Dr. Woo, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
It's been an extraordinary few days. I mean, the North Korea summit was on again, off again, and now it seems to be back on again. What do you make of everything that's gone on over the last 4 days or so?
Yeah, it was indeed a surprising development over a couple of days. And I think many described it like it felt like they are riding on a very fast roller coaster. And we have observed that the President Trump canceled the meeting, and then it looks like it's going to back on the track. So we have to see. President Trump also mentioned that we have to see, but I think it's truly that we have to see whether it's going to happen or not on June 12th.
One of the most surprising events over the weekends, for me anyway, was President Moon's surprise visit to the border village of Panmunjom, where he met with Kim Jong-un for the second Inter-Korean summit. It was a very bold move, I feel like. But tell me, be honest, Professor, did you see that coming at all?
I thought that there might be some phone call through via hotline was possible between two leaders of two Koreas, but I think this was a surprising meeting between two leaders. It was reported and President Moon revealed yesterday that it was first approached by the Kim Jong-un, Chairman Kim Jong-un, to have a meeting. I think there are two reasons why President Moon accepted the meeting right away. First one is that President Moon needs to check what's the perception of North Korea on the current status. But to check what and how North Korea is thinking of current situation can be known through the phone call via hotline. I thought that is why I think the second reason is more important. I think President Moon wants to boost the political impact of the meeting. Because now North Korea has a weakened negotiating position against United States. So I think that North Korea also wants to boost its negotiating position. And also after the Korea-US summit, that United States unilaterally canceled the meeting without notifying South Korea first. So I think South Korea needs to tell that United States that South Korea is an important element of preparing for the North and the US summit in June. So I think that the political image carried by the second meeting between President Moon and the Chairman Kim is going to carry that political importance to the United States.
Yes, I think it's quite a statement by President Moon as well. So right now, earlier today, a US delegation was in Panmunjom as well, meeting with their North Korean counterparts to discuss the details of the US summit, it seems. It's quite a significant step up in preparations for the North Korea-US summit. How important are these kind of working level talks, and what do you think they discussed today?
I think two kinds of talks are simultaneously being held now. First one is in Singapore. It was reported that United States dispatched the advance team to Singapore to discuss with the North Koreans there. And that's more about like protocols and logistics of how the meeting is going to be held in Singapore. And I think the more important meeting is what was held in Panmunjom, Tongilgak yesterday, which is about agenda, what to discuss at the summit between Trump and Kim. The reason why it's more important is that whether we are going to have a summit on June 12th is dependent upon that what kind of outcome that we are going to have after the series of meeting at the working levels on the agenda of denuclearization of North Korea. So I think that the series of meetings that we are going to observe in Tongilgak and elsewhere, which will discuss the agenda of the summit on June 12th, is more important than the Singapore one.
The denuclearization point seems to be a key one between the discussions between the two sides. Do you think there needs to be higher level talks, for example, with US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and a senior North Korean official like Kim Young-chul? There's some rumors that it could be happening soon.
I think it depends how well the working level meetings are going on. There are two possibilities. First one is that Secretary Pompeo and Mr. Kim can have a meeting to finalize the deal between the US and North Korea. And second possibility is that they have to salvage the summit if the working level meetings didn't go smooth. So I think that there are possibilities of meeting for the high level government officials from both two countries, but we don't know what kind of nature that high level talks will carry is unknown until that meeting will be held.
Now, Trump, as ever, took to Twitter and said, let me quote here, "I truly believe North Korea has a brilliant potential and will be a great economic and financial nation one day. Kim Jong-un agrees with me on this. It will happen." Now, there are some who think that this continued emphasis on economic prosperity suggests Trump is getting ready to make some sort of economic incentive or economic package for North Korea. What do you think?
So if the denuclearization process is truly going on in North Korea, then the U.S. and the United Nations probably ease the sanctions against North Korea. So if we got some temporal relief or temporal ease of economic sanctions on North Korea, then South Korea might be able to start with economic cooperation project with North Korea, and Chinese government and Chinese firm can start their own investment. And if we can confirm the denuclearization direction of North Korea, then maybe World Bank, IMF, or Asian Development, in which that all U.S. government has heavy influence, they can lend the money to lend for North Korea to develop their own economy and the infrastructure. So I think that even without getting money from the U.S. government, denuclearization process can lead to the ease of sanctions, and which also can lead to the economic investment from South Korea, China, and also the money laundering from the international banks.
But Pyongyang seems to be objecting to this publicly, at least anyway. For example, North Korean state media issued a statement on Sunday attacking U.S. media and officials for promoting stories about U.S. promising economic incentives. Now, although it was aimed at the U.S. media, it was also aimed at the U.S. officials. A few days ago, Trump seemed to cancel the U.S. summit over comments made about the Vice President, Mike Pence. North Korea's reaction to economic aid, doesn't this risk annoying Trump again and risk the summit?
I think that the rhetorics and the level of the word used in the announcement is much milder than before. And the reason why North Korea has to rebut this kind of statement from the United States is that any decisions about the denuclearization of North Korea should look like that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made a grandiose political decision. They have to make it look like that it's Kim Jong-un's decision, not by pressure from the international community, or for the economic benefits that international community can provide. So so that is why North Korean media and the North Korean government officials have to rebut this kind of remarks or statement from the United States, because they need to emphasize that it's Kim Jong-un's decision to make a peaceful world through denuclearization of North Korea.
President Moon Jae-in revealed after his summit with Kim Jong-un that one of the primary concerns that Pyongyang had was U.S.'s guaranteeing North Korea's security after denuclearization. What assurances can Trump actually give, though, on that front?
It is very complicated, and North Korea has never really mentioned what they really need about security assurance. So former Secretary of State Tillerson mentioned that United States not pursuing regime change, regime collapse, or unification. And even before, in 2005, a September 19th agreement said that U.S. is not going to attack either with traditional conventional weapons or nuclear weapons against North Korea. So United States has reiterated that they don't have any intention to attack North Korea. So now we are talking about this abstract concept of security assurance or regime survival. So we have to, the North and the United States has to discuss what kind of concrete policy or concrete institutions or concrete law that provide security assurance to North Korea. So I think that that's going to be a very tricky element of the negotiation between two governments.
Now, after this weekend's events, the possibility of a trilateral summit between South Korea, North Korea, and the US has come up. And the topic of such a meeting would likely be agreeing on the official declaration of the end of the war. Now, do you think this kind of trilateral meeting could happen?
The reason why President Moon Jae-in mentioned yesterday's announcement was that he positively viewed the outcome of the summit between Trump and Kim. So I think that taking advantage of that opportunity, that our government is going to announce the declaration of end of war with North Korea and the United States if the summit goes well on June 12th. So maybe we have to think whether whether China wants to join or not, because Chinese government, China has strong influence on Korean Peninsula and the geopolitics of Northeast Asia. So to prevent China playing a role as a spoiler, we might need to accommodate some of Chinese demand. So I think that the declaration of end of war is more like a political manifestation rather than legally binding agreement among the governments. So I think that we are going to discuss the possibility of China joining the statement. So we have to see.
Well, thank you for your insights, Professor. That's all we have time for today. But, thank you for coming in today, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
That's our show for today. But hope you can join us again next time, and do stay tuned to Arirang throughout the day for all the latest news updates from Korea and around the world. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Do you know Seoul? On the banks of the mighty Hangang River rises Asia's most dynamic city, a hub of technology, culture, and finance. Seoul, the heart of Korea. Hangang River, the main river that represents Korea, runs through the central part of the Korean peninsula and flows east to west. It originates from Taebaek, Gangwon-do Province. Seoul, reduced to ashes during the Korean War, it is now home to the world-class brands Samsung and Hyundai. It's the pulsing metropolis where Psy sang his mega hit Gangnam Style. Seoul is the gateway to Asia, located between Beijing and Tokyo, and is a hub for trade and finance. Discover the subtle beauty and dazzling brilliance of Seoul, a 1,000-year-old capital which is on the cutting edge of technology, offers a glimpse of the future, and is a place of deep kindness.
K-Beauty Talk.
놀랍죠? 세계가 열광하고 있으니까 대단한 일이에요. 이렇게 핫해질 줄은 몰랐거든요.
Innovative products capturing the hearts of women. K-Beauty attracts global fans.
글로벌 트렌드 같은 경우 세미 매트한 피부평을 강조한 컨투어링 메이크업이라고 할 수 있어요.
Global beauty trend, contouring.
K-뷰티는 무결점 피부 표현이죠. 잡티가 없는 정말 매끈한 베이스로 자연스러운 피부를 연출하는 거예요.
Neutral eye makeup. Two-tone gradation lip. K-Beauty makeup, natural. K-Beauty, the cutting edge of beauty. Arirang.